Hey there, let's dive right into this explainer where we're going to build a really powerful economic lens. We'll use this lens to decode the decisions we make every single day. Because honestly, whether you realize it or not, every choice you make is an economic one. So today, we're going to uncover the hidden gears turning behind the scenes of our lives, our businesses, and, well, the whole world.
Here's the game plan for today. We're going to structure our journey by zooming out. First, we'll look at personal trade-offs. Then, we'll scale up to a factory's production costs. And finally, we'll explore how millions of people interacting actually shape market elasticity and real-world policies.
All right, section one, scarcity and trade-offs, the ultimate human problem. Let's get into it. To really understand economics, we have to start with a fundamental reality that literally 100% of all economies face. Our resources are scarce. You know the classic saying, there's no such thing as a free lunch? Well, it's a classic for a reason. It brilliantly illustrates our very first principle. Every single choice requires a trade-off. Because resources are limited, you just can't have everything. If a society wants a much cleaner environment, right, it usually has to pass regulations that might raise production costs and lower incomes. Or, on a personal level, if you want to spend your evening studying, you're giving up the chance to work a shift at a part-time job. Even if a friend buys you lunch, it's not truly free, because the time you spent eating it, you could have used that time to do something else entirely. Now things get really interesting when we apply these trade-offs to society as a whole. When societies try to manage their scarce resources, they are constantly battling between two main goals: efficiency and equality. Efficiency is all about getting the absolute maximum benefit out of what we have. Think of it as growing the total economic pie to be as massive as possible. Equality, on the other hand, is about taking that pie and trying to slice it up uniformly for everyone. But here is the ultimate catch. Often, when governments attempt to cut the pie into more equal slices, say through progressive taxes or wealth redistribution, it can actually reduce the reward for working hard. And when that happens, people might produce fewer goods and services. So the result? The entire pie actually gets smaller. And that brings us to a huge concept: opportunity cost. The true cost of anything is exactly what you have to sacrifice to get it. For example, have you ever wondered why high school athletes who are just phenomenal at their sport often skip college to turn pro? I mean, it's not because they don't value an education, it's because the opportunity cost is just too high. They'd literally be giving up millions of dollars by not playing professionally for those 4 years. Or think about buying a concert ticket. The cost isn't just the $50 you paid, it is also the value of the time you spent actually attending the show. Okay, moving right along to section two, the cost of production inside Widget Production Co. Let's look through our second lens. Let's take a virtual walk across a factory floor and see how a business deals with these exact same realities of scarcity and trade-offs. Check out these numbers on the slide. Notice what happens to our total output as we start adding more workers. Now, keep in mind, we have a fixed number of exactly 3 machines. With 1 worker, we make 8 widgets an hour. With 2, boom, we jump to 18. By the time we hit 7 workers, we're making 56 widgets. But to really figure out what's going on behind the scenes here, we need to break down the costs. To optimize this factory, we got to separate our costs into 2 separate buckets. First up, fixed costs. Let's say leasing our 3 machines costs $90 per day. That cost is fixed, meaning whether we produce 0 widgets or 56 widgets, we still owe that exact same $90. It doesn't care about our output level. On the flip side, we have variable costs. If we pay our workers $15 an hour, our labor costs are going to rise every single time we hire someone new to bump up production. So here is the make or break metric for any business: calculating the marginal product of labor. This basically tells us exactly how much extra output each brand new worker brings to the table. Let's do the math together. It's pretty simple. If 3 workers make 33 widgets and hiring a 4th pushes our total up to 43, then that 4th worker's marginal product is exactly 10 widgets. They added 10. But watch closely what happens when we hire a 5th worker. Total output goes from 43 to 50. Wait a second. That means the 5th worker only added 7 extra widgets. Bam! That right there perfectly illustrates the law of diminishing marginal returns. Think about it. That 5th worker costs the exact same $15 an hour as the 4th worker, but they are giving us less extra output. Why? Well, because we still only have 3 machines. Eventually, the workers start crowding each other, or they're just standing around waiting to use the equipment. So hiring that 5th worker actually decreases our productivity per dollar. It proves that simply throwing more bodies at a problem isn't always the cost-efficient fix. To keep the average variable cost per widget as low as possible, this factory is actually way better off just stopping at 4 workers. All right, on to section 3, understanding market elasticity, how markets respond. Let's zoom out again. Now that we've seen how a single firm optimizes, let's put on our third lens to see how millions of buyers and sellers react to price changes. This is called elasticity. Basically, elasticity measures responsiveness. How much do people react when a price tag changes? Now, there is a tiny mathematical quirk we have to solve here. If you calculate a standard percentage change from $4 up to $5, you actually get a different percentage than if you calculate the drop from $5 down to $4. Kind of awkward, right? So to fix that, economists use what's called the midpoint method. By dividing the change by the average of the starting and ending values, the math stays perfectly consistent no matter which direction the price is moving. Okay, so when we say demand is elastic, it really just means buyers are super reactive. Imagine a 10% price increase. If buyers cut their spending by more than 10%, that is elastic. And there are 4 key triggers for this. First, if close substitutes are available. Like if Coke gets too expensive, boom, you just buy Pepsi. Second, if the good is a luxury rather than a total necessity. Third, if the market is really narrowly defined, think Granny Smith apples versus just buying food in general. And fourth, time. A longer time horizon gives people the runway to actually change their habits. If a product fits these categories, consumers will absolutely flee from a price hike. I gotta tell you, this total revenue matrix on the screen, it's basically the ultimate cheat sheet for business pricing. Total revenue is just your price multiplied by your quantity sold. If demand for your product is inelastic, meaning people really need it and are going to buy it anyway, like motor oil or life-saving meds, raising your prices will actually boost your total revenue. The higher price totally outweighs the tiny little drop in sales. But if your demand is elastic, raising your price is a terrible idea. A price hike will cause so many customers to jump ship that you will actually lose money at the end of the day. Finally, Section 4, Real-World Policy Applications. Let's put it all together. Let's take our economic lenses, trade-offs, production costs, and elasticity, and actually use them to solve some massive real-world policy puzzles. Take the farming paradox. Let's say some incredible new tech causes a massive wheat harvest. You'd think the farmers would be popping champagne, right? Well, a great harvest increases the overall market supply. But because the demand for basic food is highly inelastic, I mean, people only eat so much wheat no matter how cheap it gets, that massive supply causes the market price to just absolutely crash. The price falls so hard and the amount sold barely moves that the farmers actually end up making less total revenue. It's wild. Good news for farming can literally be terrible financial news for farmers. We can even apply this elasticity lens to government drug policies. Think about a policy that's purely focused on drug interdiction, basically shutting down the supply at the border. Because addiction makes the demand for drugs highly inelastic, cutting that supply causes the street price to severely spike. But the actual quantity consumed barely drops. This means total spending on drugs goes way up, which can inadvertently drive up drug-related crime because addicts need more money to feed the habit. Now compare that to funding drug education. Education targets the demand side. It reduces demand entirely, so both the price and the quantity fall, effectively shrinking the entire market without causing that same spike in crime. Economics doesn't tell us what to value, but it perfectly maps out the mechanics of our choices. From the opportunity cost of your daily decisions, to navigating the diminishing returns on a factory floor, to seeing the surprising ways elasticity shapes global policies, economics is truly the study of how society manages its scarce resources. We've covered a lot of ground today. Having mastered trade-offs, production costs, and the forces of elasticity, I want to leave you with one final thought. How will you use this new economic lens to view the world differently tomorrow?